So you might have found yourself in a difficult situation, not been able to make your payments, your bond payment, your mortgage payment. Are you afraid that the bank might repossess your property, making you lose out on large amounts that you have already paid? And the house too, you could lose that too. But so what happens when your house is repossessed in South Africa? What does the law say about it? What can you do? Let's find out more with the legal expert and legal aid project manager, Dennis Masango. Good morning, Dennis. Thank you for joining me.
Good morning, and happy New Year, and all the best for the year. And good morning to the listeners.
Thank you, and compliments to the new year to you too as well. All right, nobody wants to get all their efforts and hard-earned money go down the drain by having their property repossessed. So tell us, what happens if a property is repossessed in South Africa?
All right. It's unfortunately because that's the last step that the creditors take in order to recover or redeem the damages that they have suffered, in that the debtors have not paid back the money that they borrowed in order to pay that asset. Mostly it's focused on secured debt, which is the house and immovable assets like a car, which has a long-term loan agreement. So it becomes unfortunate, and more especially during times of COVID, but will encompass all the times of people not paying because of different reasons, either because they are financially distressed or they have not managed properly their finances in order to be able to pay, or they are very indebted. They owe quite a lot of loans and a lot of people. Now, as I've stated earlier on, repossession is an antithesis of possession, because you are in possession of a property, either a car or a house, because the bank has given you money in order to acquire that property. Now, there's a contract between you and the credit provider, which might be the bank at this particular point in time, which we'll be focusing on, that gives you money and use that asset as collateral or as security. We call it a secured debt, and give you that in the event, the contract that say, in the event that you fail or are in breach of the contract in terms of payment, we are going to take back what belongs to us.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, the house belongs to the provider of the finance until such time that the amount that has been advanced has been paid back. And the house, because you don't have cash, it's used as collateral. It means it can be used as a secured debt in the event that you don't pay back all the money that was given to you. That house can be repossessed in order to defray all the expenses that are incurred for the purpose of taking back the house or taking back the car. So the process obviously starts with, when we are in distress, you cannot be able to repay the bank.
Mm-hmm.
The first port of call that you have to do as a debtor, just go to the bank and inform them, this is my situation, I can't pay, so that you can be able to enter into some other arrangement. Now, if you approach the bank, there are various ways that they can do before they do a repossession or taking back of their assets. They can either, if it's a house, make an alternative arrangement. For example, extend the period of your payment from 20 years maybe to 30 years, or from 15 to 20 years or whatever, so that your installment is lessened or it's shortened or it's reduced. Or they can say, if you are unable to pay, then sell the house. Before they can do what we call a foreclosure, it means they cancel completely the agreement that you made with them when you acquired the property. So they can say, we can put that house, sell it yourself, or we can put it into our basket of houses that we sell, because it becomes easier and quick. They can give you all that alternative. And or finally, you can possibly go into what we call a debt counseling, where your property will be protected from being taken away because a court order has been issued by the court that now you are distressed, you are under debt counseling. Your installments are paid into a single account that pays different creditors. Now, those are the issues that the bank can advise, more especially with a movable property like a car. You can go to debt counseling and become protected. Now, those are the mechanisms that the bank can assist you. However, if you find yourself that even those mechanisms that you are placed in, you are unable to proceed with them, then the bank will issue what we call a Section 129 notice in terms of the National Credit Act that warns you, like a letter of demand, that you have 20 days to approach us, you have 20 days to approach debt counseling, and you must come back after 20 days, within 10 days, and say, this is the step that I've taken. But if you ignore the letter or you don't do anything, then that's when the legal processes take effect.
Mm-hmm.
The legal processes take effect once we have not taken further steps. Then the bank, after issuing that Section 129 letter of demand, which is enjoined and compelled by the National Credit Act to do this, what they will now do, they will have to issue what we call summons by appointing attorneys who are on their record of panels to take the matter forward. Now they are starting what their legal intervention, legal process, in order to take back what belongs to them because we are not complying with the contract in terms of payment. They will now issue summons at the address that you mentioned when we signed the contract. Domicilium et citandi. We call it domicilium et citandi. It means your domicile of residence, that whenever you want to issue any notices, whether it's letters or anything, this is the address I'm going to use. Now, this is the caveat. It's very important that the address that you put at the bank, if you are changing places, the bank must be informed. Because the bank is going to issue summons on the address that you refer as domicilium et citandi. This is the address that you are going to accept any notice. And if the bank sends that address is there and we have moved on, we are no longer staying there, maybe we have rented the house or done something, whether you find the summons there or not, the bank will just place the summons on the door or at the gate. Whether you receive them or not, the bank has followed the legal process. You cannot come later and say, I'm no longer staying there, I left my daughter or what. It's very much important to the listeners to hear this. If you are moving places, inform the bank that I have moved from these places, I'm staying these places, please change my address. So that when they issue someone, they can follow you at the address that you are. Mm-hmm. Because the reason is that people will say, I was not aware of the summons, and I'm not staying there anymore. That's not an excuse. The process continues. The summons are there. If you don't receive, the bank will take what we call a default judgment. A default judgment, it means you were given 10 days to defend the case. Mm-hmm. If you have any forms of defense, to defend the case, and if you did not defend the case, the bank will apply, or the creditor will apply what we call a default judgment. It means you did not enter any appearance to defend within a given time. Mm-hmm. It means either you ignored the summons deliberately, or you did not receive the summons, or you have abandoned everything. The bank cannot, or the creditor cannot be left in limbo because you have been given time. Remember, mm-hmm. the sheriff is the person that is responsible to issue the summons. It cannot be any other person, because once the sheriff has issued summons, he comes with a document, what we call a return of service, that he knows what transpired. You will say, on this particular day, at this particular time, I arrived at this particular address as indicated in the summons to issue the summons. Either I found the defendant or the debtor and I issued the summons to that person and acknowledged them, or I find any other person who stays in the house and confirm that the person stays here, or there was no one in the house, I just pasted the document on the wall or on the door or at the gate. That is what we call proper service. And the return of service will indicate that, and it will indicate the time in which the summons will issue. Now, if you don't get hold of those documents, the creditor will issue a default charge. Now,
All right.
once default, okay, you want to intervene?
Yes, sorry. I want us to take a quick break, but before we go, I want to know how long does it take to repossess a property in South Africa? Let's discuss that when we return.
Okay.
Little bare feet on the icy wet ground, a shiver at his lips, mud on his clothes. When he is cold, the hunger is worse, the nights are longer, and the pain is more severe. What if this was your child? The Al Imdad Foundation's Global Winter Appeal allows you to make a difference for refugees, IDPs, and struggling communities in 21 countries globally. Sponsor a winter pack today for just 600 Rand. Donate online at alimdad.com or call 0861 786 243.
For a long time, we've lived in a centralized world where institutions held the all-important data and confirmed all transactions. Those times are over. Welcome to Libertas Group, a blockchain developing company boasting an ecosystem that continually redefines the way we do business. Our blockchain is decentralized, making it immune to hacking or alteration, putting the power back in your hands with no middleman so you can focus on the growth of your business. Libertas, the simplest investment choice you'll make.
Shimmer, sparkle, captivate. Nothing less than a masterpiece. Droplets of gold inspires precious design. Platinum bursts with intricate freshness. And every pure diamond becomes more than just a girl's best friend. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, where timeless dreams become a reality. Come to us. We tailor-make designer gold, platinum, and diamond jewelry. Trade in or remodel your old gold. Clad yourself with classy name-branded watches. We offer insurance valuation and freezer card calculation. Visit us at 534 Ridge Road, Overport, or call 031 208 9142. Voda Gold Gem Jewelers, manufacturers of fine gold and diamond jewelry.
Your act of love gives hope. Islamic Relief supports orphans and vulnerable children in 28 countries with food, education, and medical care. There are more than 150 million orphans in the world. You can give hope to one. Sponsor an orphan today. Go to www.islamic-relief.org.za.
Listen to something fresh. Listen to Salam Media.
Welcome back. You are listening to the Mid-Morning Talk on Salam Media with me, Mara Mukwanda, and we are talking about property repossession in South Africa, how it works and how you can avoid it with a legal expert and a legal aid project manager, Dennis Masango. Dennis, thank you for staying on the line now. How long does it take to repossess a property?
It depends on two aspects, whether the matter is defended or not defended. So the process that I was explaining, it's not a defended matter. It can take 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. If it's not defended, it means depending also that when the creditor applies for a default judgment and the court grants, but strenuously slow by looking at the documents with microscopic eyes to check whether there's fairness and there's justice. And they'll issue what we call a warrant of arrest against property or immovable property. So if that process is up to level that satisfies the judge or the magistrate, that process can take almost, let me say, 3 to 4 months. But if the matter is defended, it can take more than 6 months, it can take a year, it can take 2 years, it can take 3 years, it can take 4 years. So, because of difficulties, for example, let's start with the shorter process when the matter is not defended. It means the banks, once the court granted a default judgment coupled with the warrant of execution against property, then once that process is finished, then the bank will proceed with the process of auctioning the property, meaning it puts it into the public tender, where various bidders will show up their hands and say, remember, the bidding now has what we call a reserve price. Previously, there was no reserve price. You could buy a property for as much as 10 rands, which is worth 500,000. But the court said this is unfair because the balance of the debt remains with the debtor. So there must be a reserve price which is almost equal to the balance that the debtor is owing on the bank regarding to the credit. So once that is done, then the reserve price, for example, if the house is in 300,000, can start from 300,000 upwards, and people can bid from there. So whatever is paid, then it's paid to the bank. Whatever the balance, for example, the house was sitting at 300, now it's 500,000. The 200,000 minus all the expenses of the auctioneer will go back to the debtor. Now the process can take 3 months, 4 months. That's the quicker process. Now the caveat is, once the property is sold in auction and it's not defended, and the debtor is still in the property, then there's responsibility of the new buyer to evict the old owner of the house. That is mostly the contentious issues, because a lot of people complain, I'm paying the bond, but I'm not staying there. I think listeners have experienced that. I'm paying the bond, but the person who was staying in the house refuses to vacate. I've tried eviction, which is more expensive to me. Once a person is evicted, when the sheriff is called and the person goes back to the house, I must start the process again. So it's important that people, when they buy houses in auction, they must check whether there's a person that is staying there, or it's what is called a vacant occupation. It means there's no one, then it becomes easier. So it's a caveat that they must look at when they buy a property on auction. Is the bondholder still in occupation of the house? And am I responsible for that? Now, once the person defends for various reasons, maybe wants to settle the house, or he disputes the amount that is levied on him or her by the creditor, then the process takes place. And some people might defend for the sake of delaying the process, while maybe the person is waiting for a pension fund payout, or is waiting to cash out the lotto ticket or whatever. Then a person can defend. What then happens is that the creditor will apply for summary judgment, meaning you have entered a notice to defend. Just to delay the matter, you don't have any defense. And the person will put his reasons to have a defense. But if there are no defense, the court can grant a summary judgment, then and say you don't have a defense, you are owing, you are not working, you don't have any means of income, you are delaying the process. Pay the amount. Then the court will scrutinize and say, you must understand that prolongs the process. That's why I'm saying it can take 6 months, it can take. So there's no specific answer to say a house can be repossessed, depending on the merits of the case, depending on whether the person defends the case, and depending on there are no issues involved around that, depending there are no problems during the auction period, or the court the magistrate or the judge don't query the certain aspects from the bank. So it's not an easy answer it's not an easy question to answer as to how long. It can take from 3 months up to a year, up to 2 years.
Mm-hmm. All right. Now, earlier on, you were talking about debt review, that a person should go for debt review, especially if they receive a summons. So, what happens during that process? What happens at debt review?
Okay, once you receive a notice from the bank, which you call a Section 129 in terms of the National Credit Act, now it specifically guides you what you need to do once you decide. One of the things is you have to go to a debt counselor to seek assistance, and that mostly happens on movable property most of the time.
Mhm.
Because banks are not reluctant to put under debt review immovable property because of the cost involved, the interest running. So, but movable
Mhm.
property, let's focus on the car, for example. You can, before you receive someone, then you can then contact the debt counselor. The debt counselor will look at your financial affairs and look all the debts that you have, loans, housing, and everything, and the car insurance, and say, let's combine all that debt. And therefore, you will pay one single payment, which will be put in an agency fund, that payment. And for example, so that listeners can understand, if you are earning 15,000, you have 20,000 credit. On that 15,000, you have a shortfall of 5,000 rand. It means you are living beyond your means, or you cannot afford. Then the debt counselor will reduce that the installments you are paying, so that you can have money to live on. So instead of 15,000 paying debt, you can reduce it to 10,000 rand in a single payment. Then they will reduce all the debt and pay them on a quarterly basis. The amount that, then so that you can have money. The implications of a court order that is obtained through the debt review is that no creditor can take further action against you. Once you have a court order that says you are under debt review, it means all actions are suspended or are freeze. So the car that you are supposed to be repossessed, and it's freeze because of the continuous payments that you must make. Make sure that the installment of the car is also put under debt review. That's how you get protection. So that further legal action are suspended based on the court order that has appointed a debt counselor. That's how the debt counseling. Now, once you finish paying all the creditors through an agent, then they can maybe what we call a clearance certificate, which goes through the court. They apply for rescission of the court order. Then you get what we call a clearance certificate, meaning the debt counselor has paid all your creditors. It might take time, a little bit, but it gives you protection that you don't lose the car that you paid. The banks, the debtor will pay at a small amount, the creditor. That's how the debt system in a nutshell works. It gives you a certain kind of protection. You understand?
Yes.
So,
Now,
listening, sorry to intervene.
now, does this increase the interest rate and maybe the time limit that one would normally pay? For example, if we're talking about paying for a car in 5 years, and now because one had to undergo debt review, will that time be increased to maybe 7 years or longer?
Very obvious. If you remember that if you go for debt review, your
Yes.
installment will, because you are no longer paying let's say if you're paying 5,000, you're no longer paying 5,000. You'll be paying, for example, 2.5.
Yes.
That automatically prolongs and intervenes with your initial contract of 5 years. Now it increases your contract. Obviously, it might affect the interest period unless the debt counselor intervenes and speaks to the creditor regarding the interest rate. It's either they completely suspend the interest rate until a specific time, or they reduce the interest rate. So the debt counselor is the one that will negotiate with the bank or the creditor and say suspend, because this person cannot pay this, or reduce the interest rate when you negotiate the reduction of the installment. So obviously that will prolong, because if the installment is reduced from 5,000 to 2.5, it means it prolongs the contractual time frame of 5 years, whatever, to 6 or 7 to 8 years. That's what the job of the counselor will do, to prolong the payment period. Obviously, some complications. But it's important that they are always advised that if you are under debt review and you have money now that you are able to use, please, please don't, the bonus that you get, don't waste it. Take it to the counselor, so that the counselor can try to expedite payment of all your creditors. Whatever spare money that you might have that you got somebody, give it to the debt counselor to pay the creditor, so that the sooner you get out of debt counselor, the better. Remember that once you are under debt counseling, you'll never get credit. You don't qualify for loans. You don't qualify for loans at all. Any creditor that grants loans once you are under debt, we call it reckless lending. Because we are not supposed to receive any credit or loans while you are under debt review, because it's not even a best interest. Then it puts you more into debt. We call it reckless lending, and that creditor can forfeit that money and can be fined by the consumer ombudsman or the national credit ombudsman. So basically, that is the process of debt counseling. And then remember that once your house is about to be repossessed and not yet transferred into the name of the buyer, you can always, the auction, once the auction date has been set, but it has not, no one has yet bought the car, you can always come up with arrangements with the bank. You can always, people should understand that just because you have received the house, there's a judgment, there's a warrant of execution, there's a public auction that is about to take place, you can cancel the public auction even on the day of the public auction to say, I have raised the money that I'm owing together with the cost of everyone. I want to stop the auction. You can do that. You can put those interventions. I had a windfall, or I got my money from pension fund after a lot of struggle. I want to pay this and stop the auction. You can do that. And people should take a note of that. And there are other ways that you can intervene. Don't wait. If you don't have money, you have lost your job, don't wait for your house to be sold for the auction. Ask the bank to assist you, or you can do a private sale. Sell your house, dispose of the property. For example, if we are owing 200 and the house is owing, it's got a market value of 1 million, why do you have to wait for the house for the bank to repossess it and sell it at 200,000? Sell the house, get the 800,000 profit, buy a stand, build a house, sell the house, or buy another house. Because people don't want, by our experience, they live until the last day when they are evicted, when they could have done so much. They don't want to part with sentimental values with the houses. Some people, the house is worth 1.5 million. A person owes 500,000. The bank can sell it. I don't care. But sell it yourself and get money. Get 1 million profit and buy another house. So it's important that you act, and before the bank takes serious steps and sell the house. So the process of that repossession, it's better now than before. It's not easy for the bank to repossess the house and sell it. The process has been made difficult by legal intervention, by legislative intervention, by serious scrutiny from the judges. The judges now, the High Court, more especially immovable property. Before the clerk, the court, or the registrar responsible for giving default judgment and warrant of execution. But now warrant of execution sits with the judge. Check that everything is in order. There are alternative arrangements that can be made for the person to pay. And is it a fair process? Is it just? And are there any elderly people that can be affected? So it takes a myriad of other factors that
Mm-hmm.
can prevent the house from being repossessed. So
All
once
right.
you find
Thank you
that,
so much for your time, Dennis. I'm sorry I'm going to have to cut you there, but unfortunately, that's all the time we have at the moment. But thank you so much, and for that really valuable information. And I hope our listeners will take heed of the advice that you have provided. Would love to chat to you once again on some more topics. We'll wait on our guests and hear what they need advice on, what they need legal advice on. But for now, thank you so much once again.
thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you very much. People should not forget to call Legal Aid Advice Line 0800 110 110. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.
That was legal aid project manager and legal expert Dennis Masango explaining how the process of property repossession works in South Africa and how you can avoid it. You can listen to the interview on Facebook in case you have missed out on it, and share your thoughts there. And also, if you require any legal advice, you may contact Salam Media, and we will get you hooked up with legal aid. I think it was 0800 110 110. 0800 110 110. All right, guys, stay with us. We will be right back.